welcome
to
Masters of Music Podcast. I'm Valdemar.
I'm Derek.
And this is episode 14.
Episode 14. Go vote!
Get away from me!
But don't vote Congress. We need him as California governor in 2 years. All right.
Yeah. So this week we have Jeff Bowders.
Jeff Bowders, an amazing drummer. He's played with the likes of Joe Satriani, George Lynch, John Five, Brad Whitford, Puddle of Mud, Shakira, Paul Gilbert. He's done session work for The Voice, Nickelodeon, MTV, VH1, CBS. The list will not stop with this guy.
Badass. So we got him coming up next, but first we got Music News!
Anybody hear anything special?
Anything?
Something special?
Anything out there?
I can't hear you!
There's a new biopic, a rock star biopic, just came out. The trailer just came out the other day.
Who's?
David Bowie!
Ground control to Major Tom.
Here is a quick clip of us reacting to the trailer.
3, 2, 1! Hey, we're doing a reaction video to Stardust with our friend.
David Bowie.
Yes.
So let's watch it. Let's see. You know, we want to see anything David Bowie. We've always wanted to. So hopefully it's good.
Yes.
Here we go.
Spray to the Stardusts.
Spray to the stars. Dust.
Hello,
Cool. Cool shot.
David Bowie.
Cinematography looks fucking awesome.
12 singles, every one a total failure, except Space Oddity. The
Reminds
record
me of
company finds
Bohemian
the album
Rhapsody there.
too weird
Yeah,
for the
same
X.
studio.
Same
I
studio.
need to be known. I need them to know me.
There's only one guy at Mercury who doesn't hate your new record with every bone in his body.
Okay. True.
David Bowie, I presume. Ron Oberman, Mercury Records.
There he is, the star.
Mark
Back couple weeks
Maron.
coming up. Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and then out to LA.
I think we can make it work. All it takes is one believer to change the world. And we got two.
Two?
You believe in yourself, don't you?
I can see
I
David
think
being
we're gonna be the
insecure like
biggest star in
that.
America. This is a Queen family rock station, so keep it safe.
Tell me about the new album. What's it all about?
It's about the years I spent dressing in women's clothes and getting laid.
You want to know why it's not working?
funny.
If anyone dares to ask you about your actual work, you just do the mystical mime act.
There is no authentic me.
Doesn't really look like him too much.
Well,
Yeah, I
then,
don't
be
think
someone
he's the
else.
right Bowie.
Be
Yeah.
someone else.
Cool shot. Cool idea.
I think it
don't
would have
wanna
been
go
better
now.
if they used a bunch of different people.
Oh, like the Dylan thing.
Yeah.
On stage with me.
Act like a star and they'll think you're a star. Don't stop until you have them on the floor, groveling.
You're not a space alien. You're from Bromley, man.
Oh yes, I am.
Okay.
Rock star or somebody impersonating a
Lou
rock star.
Reed, maybe.
What's the difference?
David Bowie's a rock star. That's
Yeah,
the
David
difference.
Bowie's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's even the right Stardust font.
The font is the problem.
All right. Okay. So, shall we talk about it?
Yeah. So, I think David Bowie wouldn't like this movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it, and I hope it's better than what it seems to be. But it doesn't hit me as David Bowie movie. It seems like they're not even playing any Bowie songs. So Bowie's music is who he is.
Yeah.
I think a lot. So it's probably one of those things like with that movie, All by My Side.
Oh, All is by my side. Yep.
Yeah, that Jimi Hendrix movie where
Andre 3000 was Jimmy.
yeah, and
He
they,
did a pretty good job himself.
yeah,
Maybe.
but they couldn't use the music because the family wasn't into it. It's just like you need Bowie's music to be in a movie, and hopefully they get the rights or something. But it seems like I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's Bowie to me. And we're still gonna watch it, but I don't think it's Bowie.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good point. If the family saw like parts of this and was like, "Oh, that's amazing. Use all the music," then you know it'd be a good movie. You know, at least to an extent. I mean, I know you didn't like Bohemian Rhapsody too much.
Yeah, I don't like Bohemian Rhapsody. Too cookie cutter to me.
Yeah.
It's not Rockstar at all. It just I mean I enjoyed the movie, but it's just not a good movie to me. Like it's not like The Doors. Like for me, The Doors is like the quintessential.
Yeah.
Like in biopic, that was like the perfect one. That is like dirty, raunchy, and also had everything in it, and it wasn't afraid to be experimental, just like the band. Bowie is experimental. The movie should be experimental.
Yeah.
Queen is hardcore rock. Like they're a big rock band. It should be rock and roll. Like in. This just seems like it's like we're gonna try to get into what he was feeling before, but Bowie, like you can say like, yeah, Bowie was very he could have been shy before, but also like he wasn't afraid to speak about what he like believed in. So you can see like he knew who he was.
Yeah.
And maybe that was later in his life.
Yeah, I think it takes, because he's known for having so many personas. It takes someone who really knows himself to be like, I'm going to be this now. Like, I'm going to evolve into this or move here. Like, that creative direction change is like, it takes a lot of balls and stuff. It looks like they're just covering the right early 70s, right when, like, you know, he started, which is... I feel like kind of a cop-out. It's kind of easy to do that. Like, here's just a section just so we don't have to make it hard on ourselves to capture who he became and, like, how insane he became. But I've seen those early 70s. I have a Spiders from Mars cassette and, like, VHS, and, like, he's insane. His performance is, like, he's so, like, into their eyes, and he's, like, really, like, kick-ass and stuff.
The best part about this trailer was Mark Maron.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
And he was just being Mark Maron. So, thank you, Mark Maron, for saving the movie.
So yeah, what are some of your favorite like rock star biopics?
The Doors is one of my favorites. I mean, it's like I think the best one ever I've ever seen.
Yeah, as far as any movies I like, no. I mean, I love the Mozart movie. Amadeus is great.
Oh, yeah. Amadeus is sick.
Immortal Beloved was amazing. Yeah. I just saw it recently, and Gary Oldman is fucking nuts. He's like just so... He grows into this thing that you're like, wow, you hate and love him so much. It's like, fuck. So I really just like the older stuff. Anything that was on TV, like the Jacksons, the Temptations movie.
Yeah.
Those were awesome. They kind of like captured, those are the Tina Turner movie, What's Love Got to Do with It? Those were like, that had like Lawrence Fishburne, and he was fucking like the best villain ever. So
yeah, so what would be your guys' favorite
Rockstar biopics? Let us know in the comment section.
We gotta move on because it's time for Jeff Bowders!
Here we go. This is gonna be fun.
How did you pick drums? How did that happen? You went to online.
Sure. Not a lot of people believe this, but because, well, the reason I started playing drums was when I was 10 years old. We got cable television in this house my parents bought, and we got MTV, and this is the first time I saw MTV. And then that's when I saw, yes, everyone's favorite band, Poison, playing the song "Talk Dirty to Me," and the drummer Ricky Rocket looked like he was having a blast, and I said, I want to play drums. So Ricky Rocket of the band Poison is the reason why I play drums. And a lot of people do not believe that because I guess my career is a little bit different than what Ricky Rocket's is. But it's totally true. Yeah, I had posters of Ricky, and then I saw like Motley Crue, and it was basically, this is 1986. And so at that time, MTV, the programming on MTV was what they call like hair metal, which I hate that term, but it's basically like 80s hard rock metal and new wave synth wave, like Aha, Flock of Seagulls, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so you really only had those two type of genres that MTV was just constant rotation. And so that's what I grew up with. Right. And that's what had such a profound impact when I was 10 years old, 11 years old. You know, watch Poison and Motley Crue and Brad and Bon Jovi and Def Leppard and all these bands, and playing these massive arenas and everything. I just went, man, this looks so amazing. And so it inspired me to pick up a pair of drumsticks and a practice pad and start taking some lessons. And after about a year of school band, I realized I didn't really learn a whole lot. And so I asked my mom if I could, actually sign up for private lessons, because I enjoyed it, but I knew I wasn't really progressing to the degree that I was wanting to. And so I just had super supportive parents. I was really blessed to have parents that were beyond the pale of supportive. I mean, they just went above and beyond. And so signed up for private lessons. And then through that was kind of my first introduction to like formal music education, right? Those one-on-one lessons. And I can't tell you how much I loved it. I mean, it was everything I wanted it to be. It's like, I was in sports and stuff like that, but there was something about going to a drum lesson every single week and getting introduced to something new that I had no idea was possible. Some new theory, some new coordination, some new concept, and then having it explained to me, and then me working on it throughout the week and seeing how much I could progress with it, or how much I could develop it, and then have the accountability or the responsibility to be able to perform that on my next lesson, and it was kind of that just weekly challenge that I just found so invigorating and motivating and inspiring that I just maintained. I took a bunch of lessons from all the different drum instructors that I could find around Salem and Portland, Oregon, where I was from, and just try to be a sponge as much as possible. And it was such a really, really great experience, and not just musically, but I think personally. Anytime you have to challenge yourself to get out of the comfort zone, right? Anytime that you willingly put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, it forces you to grow, right? Yeah. You don't grow in the comfort zone. And so I think a lot of times having that pressure or that accountability of giving some new information and then being able to play it or develop it in a certain period of time, and have somebody kind of give you a check mark and not say yay or nay, but just kind of say, hey, this is good progress. This will help you more. If you want to incorporate this type of approach to it, this will take you here. It was just this awesome, cool, like chess match that just never ends, that you could always figure out different strategies, different ways to improve, different ways to maximize your efficiency with your practice time. Does multitasking work? Does working on things, in a linear fashion work? Just all these different, performance type of techniques can be applied to every arena in life, right? And so, fortunately, music and drums helped me kind of form, that worldview or that mindset of what the mind and the body are capable of doing when you consistently put it in under some sort of distress, some sort of challenge, and not distress in a bad way. I mean, what's the difference, like distress and eustress? I think eustress is a good thing, but you have your body needs that. You need that to grow, or you start to atrophy. Especially cognitively, right? Yeah. If you're not, the older you get. I mean, I'm 40. How old am I now? 44. See, I don't even remember it. I'm already losing it. But
you gotta keep time, man. You gotta keep the time.
I have noticed it though, like in the past couple of years, how it's like it takes me a little bit more time to like recall somebody's name, right? If I haven't seen them in a while before, it'd just be bang bang. So if we're not engaging, our brains, cognitive, and our bodies as well, they'll atrophy, and I think music is such a cool vehicle to help us maintain our best versions of ourselves as possible. I think it's a pretty awesome blessing that we get to be able to use that, and not only just help us, but then hopefully what we do when we're at our best, we create something that inspires somebody else to become their best, right? Because they start to see what's possible, and that's really the whole purpose of it, right? Otherwise, it's just selfish art for selfishness, and who cares about that? It's like, I think the end goal should be to inspire someone else to see, to help them look within, so that they can say, you know what am I capable of doing? Can I create something of equal or more value that I received from this that I could pass on, and that's just an awesome, beautiful thing. It's a weighty responsibility, but man, I think if we want to be our best and do the best, with the talents and skills that God's given us, we got to be responsible with that. And I think that's the point. So
yeah, that's fucking.
Yes, dude. Oh my God. You make me want to pick up a guitar right now. I was like, fuck, damn it. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's like build we're making soundtrack to our life, to their lives.
Yeah, totally.
If it's perfect, like I'm also in film school right now. Because I'm just keep going, just gotta keep learning.
Do it.
And one thing is, like, a film without music is almost meaningless. Like, you need the music to help the emotion go through. And I even notice, like, personally, when I go hiking or running up a mountain, if I don't have the right song, I can't even make that mountain.
Right.
So that's also a metaphor, right? In mountains in life, you need the right song in your head.
That's true.
But it's the same.
Well, you're 1,000% correct. The power that the value of that type of art and that music, what it does to us. I mean, like you said, that's a perfect example. Movies without music, who cares, right? Yeah. It's such a beautiful connection, but even to our own personal movies, our own lives, right? That's we're creating our movie every single day here, and music can be such a powerful way, and how it inspires us and directs us and motivates us, and it's a huge responsibility to all of us that are involved in the creation of it, for others. So
yeah. Cool. And it can even be messed up. You can be some Norwegian black metal man and you still inspire.
Yeah.
We have like a
totally. I mean, that's the thing. We're all, we're not computers. We're all autonomous, biological beings here that have our own individual spirit and soul that resonates with certain things. I mean, I always use the analogy, especially a lot of my students at MI, is sometimes I think when the students come there, they feel they put the unnecessary pressure on themselves to feel like they have to be the best jazz drummer, the best rock drummer, the best funk drummer, the best metal drummer, the best country drummer. They have to be the best at everything, right? Yeah. Because at the school, right, you have to be able to play all that stuff, right? And that's just part of the curriculum because we want to make you as well-rounded as possible. But I tell the students all the time, I was like, whatever you do not put the unnecessary pressure on yourself to master everything or to have the expectation that you're going to love everything, because you're not ultimately. And that's the really sad thing, is that sometimes I'll have some students come in there and they realize that they may love like jazz and R&B and soul music, and they love that stuff, but they hate Latin music and they hate rock music, they hate pop music, right? And they kind of go, well, I guess I shouldn't be a drummer because I don't love everything equally. Who says that that's the litmus test for you to be a musician? There's 1,000 flavors of ice cream, and I only like vanilla, right? I only like vanilla, right? So just because I only like one flavor and I don't like the 999 other flavors, does that disqualify me from eating ice cream? No, I can still eat my vanilla, right? So this whole notion that we have to embrace and love everything that's music, I just think is totally contrary to human nature. There's going to be certain things we're going to like more than others, and that's totally fine. Right? We embrace that. That's a beautiful thing. That's what makes us all different. If we all like the same thing, man, art, music, life as we know it would be pretty boring, pretty redundant. So it's the diversity of the interests is what makes it so exciting.
Yeah, that's so true. Like Derek and I, we like a lot of the same stuff, but the differences between me and him is the things that we don't like. Like I don't like stuff that he likes, or the stuff that I mean, he likes everything I like because it's all badass. So
Sure,
it's fine.
He's my older brother, so I like really,
He stole all my licks, which I stole from all the teachers at MI.
Yeah.
It was a circle of
it's all
life.
cyclical. It's all cyclical. It's awesome.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Yeah. So, how did you get your first break? Like, it's always interesting to hear, like, between like the difference between you or Roger. Like, Roger's first big one was Lita. Like when we were talking to him, like when he got that Lita, he didn't even have a real drum set. And they were like, yeah, Lita says like, okay, go. She hooked him up. She got him to get a badass drum set. But
yeah. And I think Myron Grombacher, I think hooked him up a little bit to her previous drummer.
Yeah. So she called Myron. It's like, teach this guy how to do it right. This kid doesn't
Amazing.
know. So he actually lent him a drum set and then teach him how to like what stuff to get. I wish that always happened to me. Like.
Yeah, seriously. That'd be awesome.
On the first like tour we went, I wish somebody was like, hey, get Paul Gilbert to actually help you with your rig. Instead of like me just fucking around and like tubes going out like in the middle of shows in Wisconsin or some bullshit. But
yeah, Roger, I remember Roger told me that story and I was like, I was always a Myron Grombacher fan, but after he told me that story, I was like, he's even higher on my list now. I mean, the fact that he would just help out, just kind of go over the top like that for Roger was really, really cool. So, and how cool for Roger too, to not have an ego about it, because I think a lot of times too, especially when you're younger and you get like a new, you get like a big gig and all of a sudden you're thinking you're pretty awesome. And, I got this, I don't need any help. And some old drummer is going to help me. No, I'm the new guy. Right. Which I see happen, but that's just a testament to how awesome Roger is and why he's had such an awesome career is because he's a super humble guy. And he's not, that's not below him to say, hey, if you can help me, man, I'm all about that. So Roger's an awesome example. My first break was when I did live in Nashville. I lived out there, and this was like early 2000s. So at that time, there was really only two industries out there. There was obviously the big country industry, and then there was the contemporary Christian gospel industry. And I started to play with a girl in the contemporary Christian music industry. Her name was Rebecca St. James, and she was amazing. She was awesome. She was kind of like the Alanis Morissette of the Christian industry, and she was great. And it was a really good experience. And I played with her for about 2.5 years. But as you know, with any, especially with the music industry, as soon as you get one gig of note, all of a sudden you're credible in everybody else's eyes now.
Yeah.
And so like, I remember a few months after I got that gig, we had some time off and I got a couple calls from these other really big name artists. And I'm going, where were you 6 months ago when I was working at the telemarketing, facility, right? It's like, I'm not 3 months of it. My drumming hasn't changed all that much in 3 months, right? I'm pretty much the same drummer. But the thing is, people don't really want to take the time, at least they didn't back then, to really investigate you. The only thing they can go on is your reputation or who you've played with, your resume. Yeah. And that speaks a lot. And so once I started to play with her, I played with just a bunch of other like kind of bigger CCM artists at that time. And it was all pretty much just pop music. Okay. And which is great because I love pop music. And, it's especially if it's good, right? I can get into that. But I always loved, kind of the more technical, more progressive type of music. I grew up with listening to Shrapnel Records, which was
Richie Kotzen, Paul Gilbert.
Totally. Gilbert, Tony McAlpine, Marty Friedman, Cacophony, Jason Becker, all those guys. And because in my hometown, a drummer named Dean Castronovo was played on all those records, and amazingly, he lived in my same town, and so I had no idea. I never heard of that stuff, but I knew he was this really good drummer, and he played on these records, and so I started to buy these records, and I was like, what is this music? And I just fell in love with it, kind of that instrumental, rock based music. And I always loved that. And I knew when I was out in Nashville that I wouldn't really have that much of an opportunity to do that. And I wanted to play with Paul. I wanted to play with Satriani and Vi and Kotzen and, all these guys that I've just, that I grew up with. And I remember distinctively one night I was at my bass player's house. We were getting ready to bus calls like at midnight, and we're getting ready to go on a 2-week run or something. And I remember sitting on his couch, and I remember just thinking, you know what? I got really good gigs here. I'm making pretty good money. I got a good group of friends. Life is really comfortable right now. And it scared the heck out of me. It totally scared me, because I knew if I stayed there, I wasn't going to be able to reach my full potential, of what I really wanted to do musically, and I mean, I'm not saying this disparagingly at all to Nashville or anything like that. It was just at that time, they didn't have the scene and the musicians that I really wanted to play with, and so I remember I kind of decided, I went, you know what, I think I need to move back to LA. And I wanted to move back to LA to play with those type of musicians, one. And then two, to also teach. I loved education. As I told you, it was a big part of my life. And M.I told me, like a year before, the head of the drum department, he said, if you ever move back to LA, I'd love for you to teach. And so he kind of planted that seed for me. And I was thinking, oh man, I would love to do that, because education is such a valuable thing. And so I kind of had like those two carrots dangling in front of me. I was like, you know what? I think I need to move back and kind of leave the comfort of what Nashville has become, because once again, you don't grow in your comfort zone, right? Yeah. You don't experience that. And I knew Nashville was very comfortable at that time for me. And so, and I didn't want to sacrifice my growth and my potential. I didn't want to look back and say, I woulda, shoulda, coulda. I didn't want to be a part of that club, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to live with those type of regrets. So I bailed on all that, and I moved back here to LA in 2003 and basically started over, right? Because it was like I didn't have anything. I was living in an apartment with some of the guys I went to school with, a few years prior to that. There was 5 guys living in this 2-bedroom apartment. And usually there was no less than like 8 or 9 people in there every single night. I mean, it was just one of those, LA things where you're just, and I was like, man, I had this great place. I was living in Nashville, I had my own, I had everything. And I was just like, did I just make the worst mistake of my life? Did I, but, I just started to kind of work around town, for all these like $50 gig, type of situations. But then in 2004, I got a call from Paul Gilbert, and he said, he left a voicemail, and it was pretty funny because I remember he was like, "Hi Jeff, my name is Paul Gilbert. I'm a guitar player, a songwriter here in Los Angeles." He's like kind of explaining, like, I don't know who he is, right? and so I called him back immediately, and I said, "Hey Paul, this is Jeff." He's like, "Oh yes, okay. Well, I play guitar," and he starts going down the list. I said, "Paul, I know who you are, but I have a ton of your records."
Yeah, I tried out for Ozzy, but I was too tall and skinny. And
exactly. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Well, I need some demos. I'm recording some demos. At the time, he was working with a drummer named Marco Minimum, who's an incredible drummer. But he lived in Germany, and I think he was having some visa problems or whatever. And so Paul needed some demos for this. So the thing is, he got my name through this guitar player. You might know him, TJ Helmrich.
Yes.
So I worked with, I've known TJ for years. TJ worked with Paul on a tour. I think he sang and played guitar for him. And so when Paul was looking for a drummer, TJ put in my name, and then also Beth Marlis from who's the head of GIT. Yeah. And so because Paul has obviously big affiliation with MI, he went there, he taught there, and he's still does, and still has big relationships there. And so he asked her, and so the fact that he got my name from two different kind of independent sources was kind of beneficial. So,
Nice.
So I just went down to a studio like that night and recorded some demos for him, you know, for his album. And
what album was that? Was that Get On My Yard, or was that later?
That was Spaceship One.
Okay.
With the album right before Get Out of My Yard. And
is that the album that has the song 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6?
That's Burning Oregon. That's right before. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. I just love that song about like the devil falling in love with someone, taking you to Disneyland. It's so.
That's Paul's sense of humor right there.
I am Satan.
Yeah.
So good.
Did you come up with those parts that night with him, like when you were making the demos?
So yeah, with that stuff, Paul's very jammy. So he's just kind of like, I have this riff. Let's just sit on this riff and see what you can come up with, right? Ooh. And so we did that for each section of the songs, and it was and then once he was kind of cool and comfortable with it, you know, it's just like, all right, let's record, right? Damn. And so boom, and so these were just the demos for that album, and then because Marco was still going to record them, so after that experience, I didn't hear from Paul for a few months, and then I ran into his engineer that he had there, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, have you heard from Paul?" And I was like, "I have not." And he said, "Oh, okay, well, he's going to call you." And I was like, "Well, didn't you guys already record the record?" And he said, "Yeah, we already recorded the record, but I think he has some other stuff in mind." So, so basically, I think what happened was, Paul wanted. Marco's an incredible drummer. I think but I think he may be more kind of like on the fusion side a little bit. I think Paul wanted a little bit more
rock,
more aggressive rock. Yeah. And so for the tour, for the Spaceship tour, Spaceship One tour, he asked if I'd be available to do that. And I was like, no, why would I ever want to do that?
Of course not. How dare you?
Come on.
And you should have been like, "Who are you?" And then he's like,
I can't remember you.
Aren't you the guy that want to audition for Ozzy? Oh yeah, I remember. So yeah. So that's so that was like 2005, and which was great because I wanted to play with Paul forever, and so that was an awesome experience, and that led to, you know, multiple albums and tours and stuff like that for years after that, which was great.
That's a break right there.
But because of that, like I told you, my experience in Nashville, because of that lifted my status. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's credible," so, you know, I start getting called from everyone else, and that's how the resume builds. You know, it's just it's such a unfortunate way of how that works, because the thing is, you should get hired on your own merit rather than having it filter through somebody else's notable credibility. Right. But I think that's just the world we live in. And so, you know, so when you get that first break, man,
milk it.
Be very thankful and take very thankful and take full advantage of that. You know, don't sell yourself out, and don't, you know, try to be, you know, a weasel about it, but
right. I love, but you were so prepared for it, and that's just the one thing. It'll come to you for sure, because you were just like, bam, taking lessons, and as soon as we started this Zoom call, you were just talking about how I don't know, it's just you're ready for it, and I think good things happen to people who just work and they stick to it, and that was just badass.
Derek, you know, it's so interesting. I just wrote a new blog on my Drum Discipline Academy website. Mm-hmm. And it's because I just came across this photo and I posted it in the blog. It's a photo of my bedroom when I was 18 years old. And what it is, you basically see my closet, and then you see like all these like homemade written signs on top of it. And in the middle of it, there's this chart. It's called the Bowders wall chart. And it's basically a 3-year countdown to when I was going to go to M.O.M. And it was everything that I wanted to practice so that I'd be as prepared as possible. So by the time I went to M.I., just like you, just so you could take advantage of the information. So the more prepared you are, the more you're not going to get hung up on certain things, and you can really start to integrate that stuff and just incorporate it. And so I had like this 3-year wall chart that I would, schedule certain goals and certain things I wanted to study at certain times. And I would just check off each month as it went by. But then on top of it, I had like all these like handwritten signs, and it was like, March 1997, MI, be prepared, different like companies, different drummers, like what would Dean think, what were these drummers that I really respected, because when I'm practicing, I want to look at this and stay focused with it. And then on the end of it, there's one that says Racer X, and then underneath it says auditions, ?
Whoa.
Like if I'm practicing, if Racer X had an audition today, would I be prepared for it? Right. And this is me at 18 years old, right? Thinking this. And so it's just as you said, I didn't really know it, but whatever that was, 9 years later, 8 years later, I'm basically auditioning for Racer X with Paul.
Wow.
Damn.
So it's, I think there's definitely something to be said about having reminders and just really having a focus of what it is you're practicing and why you're practicing it. Really kind of helps you set a more clear trajectory for your life and your career. Because if you're just kind of willy-nilly just walking through it, yeah, you're just going to get thrown, tossed and turned by the waves of whatever life determines. But you can take more ownership with that, and I think we could be more proactive with that, with everything we do, even if that means just kind of putting up the silly homemade reminder of like a fake audition flyer, in your practice room. You're like, well, no, that puts you in the mindset of where you need to be if that's where you want to go.
Yeah, that's like I kind of did that when I took that year break from MI, but my stuff was more messed up. It was just like hard. It looked like the Joker was living there. It's just like super messed up. Yeah, so you wouldn't want to go in that room.
Yeah,
like a beautiful. Did you guys just see that movie, The Beautiful Mind?
Yeah, it's like The Beautiful Mind mixed with the Joker and just saying bad stuff like you suck,
suck harder,
like so much crap, like ha 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 ha, and like crazy stuff. Like and we have a house in Poland and it has 4 bedrooms, and I picked the bedroom that looked like a closet. So that bedroom, and I was there by myself for a whole year. I picked the smallest room. Yeah. That's the room I'm going to sleep in. That's the room I'm going to work in, and that's the room I'm going to live in. But it was a fucked up room after a while. Just
sure.
Yeah, but that does help. Like, but you have to see. Some people are like more positive reinforcement. Some people like SARTs. Some people like more like it's more business like. And for me, the negative reinforcement kind of helped me. So it's basically it's not me being negative to me. It's like I have to overpower the negativity. Totally. So like I'm super positive, and I just needed the negative forces to be like to be in front of me, so then I can be like, no, I'm better than this.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, being able to use negativity to force you to overcome that with a stronger positivity, it's amazing.
Yeah, but then I think I left a few posters up. So like 2 years later, like my parents went there, like to the house, and just saw it. They're like, "What the?" Like, hey, I don't know.
Son, are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Someone?
Yeah, that was funny though.
So bad.
Awesome. So I think we can do what?
Yes. Oh, I have the quick question actually. You played with George Lynch, right?
I did. Yeah.
Was that what year was that? When did you?
That was 2009, I think. 2008 or 2009.
Oh, that's killer.
Yeah, and that was interesting. And then I played with him a couple times since then, but it's for a different thing I do. There's this band called Scrap Metal that's basically a conglomerate of all these different guitar players or singers from different bands, and so I'm basically kind of like the house drummer for that. Kind of, so and George has been on that a couple times with like Oni Logan and we do like some of the old Lynch Mob stuff, which is kind of cool.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, for that 2008, that was a short tour that was with Paul, George, and Richie.
Wow.
And yeah, we just did some West Coast dates on that thing, and I think it was called like Guitar Generation or something like that. I forget.
Oh wow.
But yeah, but the thing is with George, like he's not known as like an instrumental guy aside from like the Mr. Scary track.
Yeah.
So the thing is, he was like, so guys, I'm just thinking, let's just play some Dokken tunes, and then I'm just going to solo over the Dokken. We would do like Tooth and Nail and like all these old classic Dokken tunes, and it would just be him just soloing over it.
Damn.
So I was like, okay, all right. Which posed an interesting challenge because those tunes, I'm so used to hearing like lyrics and a singer, a melody over that stuff. And just to be able to kind of not listen to what George was playing, and just so I could focus on like where am I in the song, because you don't have like those vocal cues or anything. That was a fun, interesting challenge. George is a very interesting guy too. I mean, he's another really well-read, just very articulate, has some very. He's a deep thinker, and we had some very interesting conversations about, the CIA and
oh wow,
ghost governments, and
shit.
It was like, yeah, he's deep into it. Wow. He's pretty deep into that
conspiracies.
Stuff.
The George Lynch Conspiracy Podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know if George would even call them conspiracies. I think he's full on. This is reality.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, it's a reality. I don't know.
Probably is. He's probably onto something.
Derek actually opened up for him somewhere.
Or just once in Arizona in front of like a pool or something. I can't remember. It was Scottsdale, but it was cool. I got to meet him, and I was like, damn, like because he's like a legend, and he's just so cool. I was like, damn, just real quick.
Yeah. Did you get to talk to him for a while, or
no? Just for a second, and just before he has this whole routine before he goes on, so I was just like just real quick. And his singer at the time, I think he's the current singer of Warrant, Jason
Robert Mason.
Robert Mason, yes. And yeah, I was talking to him for a while. Sean, I don't know if you know Sean McNabb. Yeah, I got to I'm like kind of in a band with Sean now. We kind of do like this kind of couple of, we were before, we were just gigging around and stuff, but
awesome.
Yeah, those guys are all so cool, and they're just like, they got their stuff together for sure.
Yeah. Those guys are legends. So they're dialed in. That's super cool.
Dialed in. That's a good word to use. They're just dialed in. They know what they're doing. 100%.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. That's awesome, guys.
That's sick. Final five.
Final five. Number one. What is the most important piece of gear or secret weapon while on tour or in the studio?
I mean, it's not much of a secret, but it's something that I always bring to sessions because one time I didn't have it and it was a total bummer. And that was another kick drum head. A lot of guys don't think about bringing another kick head because they're so thick and you rarely go through kick drum heads. But when you do, that ends everything. Yeah. And you can't put tape on that thing. That's over. So I don't know if that's like a secret, but I mean, that's definitely something that I need to bring because because I've definitely gone through that. Other than just making sure you have your own in-ear monitors, because I can't tell you how many times I've been to the studio and used their own, and like one side is almost already fried out, and you're like, okay, this is worthless. But I think most people know that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm that's probably not a very exciting answer, but I'd have to say just to bring an extra kick drum head.
I mean, it is exciting for the drummers that keep forgetting their kick drum heads.
Yeah, guys, come on.
What the hell, guys?
You know, the other thing, actually, now I'm thinking about it too, especially in the studio. Now you guys got me thinking. Bring different type of felts for your cymbals because those change the way your cymbals actually record about, how much decay they're going to have, how articulate they're going to be. So I actually have like a bag full of just different thicknesses and diameters of different felts, because some engineers get pretty particular about cymbals, and that drives me nuts, because sometimes I'm just like, guys, do we really need to be this particular? But they know better than I do. So I try to accommodate that as best as possible. So yeah, all right, there it is. There's my 2 boring answers, right?
Those are great. And the thing about like engineers, like as a musician, when I remember going into the studio and I think I want it blasted with distortion all the way up, they're like, nah, it's gonna be clean. You're gonna play it. Just play it the way you play it, but everything's gonna be clean, so it's not gonna sound the way you like. But trust me. I'm like, I'm not gonna trust you. Like, you fight with them, but they get you the best sound later on.
Yeah.
So it's like, trust them.
Yeah.
Trust the engineers or producers or stuff, because
they're
the ones that are going to make you good. It's like the director in a film. Like, trust the guy. Hopefully they're good, or if not, they won't be there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that way live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah.
You're going to, once again, I think it always just kind of comes down to an ego check. You're like, all right, they know better. I'm going to do the best I can to provide what they want.
Right. Preparation.
Cool.
Beautiful thing.
So,
all right.
Number 2. What is the most memorable or crazy story from the road?
I think my favorite one is, and I actually just heard John Petrucci from Dream Theater retell this one, and I was like, oh, that's it, because I tell this one quite often.
Damn.
In 2007, we did a G3 with Paul and John Petrucci and Satriani.
That's badass.
And it was awesome. It was a great tour, and we were in, I think, Philadelphia, and we were playing some old theater, and our room, it was the like backstage, or where the dressing rooms were, they were kind of laid out in an interesting way, but John's was basically at an angle from ours, and so I could just look right into John's, right? And John's warming up and everything, and I'm on my pad, and for some reason I just start, I think I was talking to Emmy, which is Paul's wife, talking to Emmy, and then we just hear this massive commotion, right? And because Satriani's on stage, and those guys are getting ready to go down to the final G3 jam, but I'm just dorking around. But I hear this massive commotion, and we're like, what the heck is going on? And we run over to John's room, and some maniac drunk fan was climbing through the rafters of this old theater and managed to get backstage, somehow from like the lobby or something like that, crawled all the way and basically fell down through the ceiling panels in John's dressing room. And John's a big guy. I mean, even back then, John was the big Viking, right?
Yeah.
And John just kind of stands. He's like, "What's going on?" Right?
Yeah.
It's just, and this guy was so hammered, he was just plastered. Had no idea where he was or what he was doing. But we're like, wow, that's now we have to put security in the rafters.
Yeah.
You never know what happened. So that was a fun festive night, I remember.
Oh,
but it was interesting because I just saw John on something on YouTube, and he was talking about it. I was like, I totally remember that. That was a fun night.
Yeah, because that's funny. Insane. But maybe John was like, yeah, I made him appear with my music. I destroyed. And now he's been trying ever since. That's what I pictured. Like, he's been every single day getting better. Like, I'm gonna do it again.
I'm gonna do it one more time. Yeah.
Because he
John is mighty
forever. Yeah.
John is mighty. Yeah.
He's a mighty guy, so I wouldn't put it past him. His abilities have no bounds.
Yeah, because he's even getting bigger and bigger, like more like Thor. Like
he's a beast now. Yeah. Was it last year? I think they were here in LA.
Yeah.
I think it was last year. And
was that the Wiltern?
The Wiltern, yeah.
I was there. Yeah. I was there. I got to see them. Yeah.
That was those guys killed it. They were so good.
Nuts.
And and John, man, he's just like a freaking superhero.
Wasn't Angenia? No, who's on drums?
Mike Mangini.
Mike Mangini. Oh God, that was nuts. He's like, the cymbals are like all the way up there. It's like drumming up. So, nuts.
Mangini, legend, total legend. Love that guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now this is Number 3.
Number 3.
Here we go.
What are your tips for songwriting?
That's a really good question, because my albums that I do, the songwriting process is probably a little bit different than the average Joe, because I'm not necessarily a school, a guitar player or a keyboard player or anything like that. So the thing is, how I come up with all the music or the ideas that start songs for my albums are, when I'm just playing, I'm just trying to sing a riff that sounds interesting, that I can come up with an interesting drum part. If I can't figure out an interesting drum part to some sort of riff, then I'll just kind of bail on it. Or the reverse happens too. I'll come up with some drum idea that I think is kind of neat, and then I start singing like some sort of riff in my head that I think would complement that or go along with it. And if I can't think of something like that, then I bail on that too. So the thing is, because I've forced it in the past before. I've come up with a really cool drum part, and I'm like, this is so cool, it has to be a song. And then I'm just trying to figure out like what musically would go on top of it. And I would force it, and it just sounds so contrived and unnatural that it just go, what's the point? It's just a waste of energy. So now I think I've just kind of learned my lesson that if it's not, it doesn't have to be immediately instinctive, but if I can't figure out something within a day or maybe a day and a half, then it's like, I just move on to something else. I don't try to sit on it and force it if it's not going to come kind of naturally already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fucking, no cussing. That is awesome. Yeah, because I always figure out like the best songs that we like the most are the ones that we write in a jam, or that we all just like instinctually, like this goes here, this goes there, this goes there. If we write a song in a minute, or like in an hour, it's awesome. It's like our favorite song. And then we have songs that we work on for like months, and then later on, we finished it, but it feels like we just built a robot. And it's like, what are we doing? Sure. It's cool. Sure. There's a bunch of cool, weird stuff, but then like, I'd rather listen to the song that's one riff that's played with 3 different drum beats, and that's it. That was a good song.
Yeah, definitely something to be said about what just comes naturally,
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Yeah.
Even like famously, like Brian May sings his solos or something before he plays them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't write them. He like sings them because he's a singer. All those guys sing. So
yeah.
Then he play, and then that's why their solos are so singable.
That makes sense. So makes sense.
You kind of sing your riffs, so then you play to that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's the idea. And then I get to torture my friends that know how to play guitar, and I say, no, it's like this, and they're like,
Number 4, what is your favorite lick or technique that has helped your playing?
Moving from more of a wrist-based technique as opposed to fingers, because and also holding the stick firm as opposed to loose, right? So there's this whole, I'm going to call it old school notion that, especially in the drum technique world, that if you're tight, you're doing it wrong, right? If there's tension, I should say, if there's tension, you're doing it wrong, right? You're gonna cause yourself injury. It's going to be nothing but problems. The sound you're going to create is going to sound stiff and everything like that. So there's been this whole campaign for decades for drummers in the technique world to always play as loose as possible, right? Well, if you're playing aggressive music, right, that's actually one of the most damaging things you can do. And I do this to my students all the time. I tell them to put their hand out like this, just super loose, just let it dangle, right? And then just start waving it as hard as you can, right? Immediately, you're going to start feeling tension. You're going to start feeling pain because all these tendons now are, this centrifugal motion is like throwing them out of the joint, right? Yeah. And so it's totally unnatural. It's the worst thing you can do. And then I say, okay, do the same thing, but just kind of make a little bit of a claw in your hand. It doesn't have to be like this death grip, like you're strangling someone, but just make like a little claw and do the same thing, right? Do you feel any tension? no tension. You don't feel any pain at all, right? Because this firmness is actually protecting these joints, right? You need to have that blood kind of engaging into those muscles and tendons so that if you're playing aggressively, you're still going to protect your hand, right? You're still going to protect the joints and the ligaments and the tendons that way. And so this happened to me a few years ago when I did a tour with this bass player, Stu Ham. And that music was, pretty intense, some of it, but I remember the tour was pretty brutal because the routing of it was awful. Most of the time, right when we got to the venue, we didn't really have time to rest. It was like just set up and play, right? No time to warm up or anything like that. And like a week and a half into this tour, I started to notice numbing in my fingertips, right? And for drummers, when you start to feel numbness in your fingertips, that's the kiss of death, right? Because that means tendonitis or worse, carpal tunnel is happening. There's some sort of nerve damage that's happening there, and that's not a good thing. And so 20 years ago, I took lessons from this marching drummer because I never had marching when I was in school. And they come from a totally different mindset. They're all about wrist. They're all about firm technique. They're all about, they're not about being super loose. They're all about, just being very intentional with every single stroke. And when I started to feel that tingling sensation, I was like, you know what? And that was the thing too. I was thinking if I'm not going to be warmed up, then I should play loose because I don't want to hurt myself. Well, I started to feel that tingling sensation. That was a problem. And so I went, you know what? I'm gonna firm up my grip a little bit, which is, counterintuitive to everything that we've been taught as drummers, you drum set drummers. But as soon as I did that, the pain, the sensation, the numbness, it went away. And so it proved even that much more that we're not like choking the stick to death. We're just holding a nice firm grip. And so my campaign is, it's not about being loose. It's not about being tight. It's about being firm and in control. And that's where, as for drummers that play the type of music that I play, it's a little bit high energy, kind of aggressive. That's going to be your best friend, because if you're going to try to play loud and super loose, you're going to kill yourself, and possibly have irreparable damage. So that technique right there, I'm actually getting ready to release like a mini course, like a 7-day course on that technique and my Drum Discipline Academy site here next week that talks all about that.
All right. This is the last one.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
Last question.
Final five.
Here we go.
What is the best advice you would give to someone looking to do what you do? A person that wants to do what you do.
Best advice.
So to someone trying to be deaf.
Stay humbled and disciplined. I mean, that's what it is. It's you got to stay humble. You got to put yourself in check. You got to realize that you're not the smartest person in the room. You're not the most talented person. You're not the best. You're not anything. That you're lucky to have whatever opportunities that come your way. And so you need to be very grateful for that. And that just requires a level of humility, and I think that's, if you can maintain that and develop that to be as a default position within your character, people are going to recognize that, and they're going to want to be around that, and they're going to want to hire that, and they're going to want to be influenced by that. Right. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then the second thing is, you got to be disciplined, right? If you want to do something that's kind of out of the norm, right? It's not out of a 9-to-5 kind of, corporate type of life. You have to know that the odds are stacked against you, right? It's like, and you don't necessarily have a coach or a boss, forcing you to get up early or to stay up late to rehearse the song again, to work on this technique another 1,000 times, repeat the same exercise, another 100 times. You have to be able to impose that self-discipline on yourself. You can't expect someone else to do it for you, because it's not going to last. So you have to get comfortable doing the uncomfortable, right? You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I know that there's different theories. I know Vi talked about, you know, if you have passion, then it doesn't require discipline, you know, because you're just going to want to do it. And I totally understand what he's saying, and I get it. But I mean, I love riding my mountain bike, right? But the thing is, I don't always love doing that. But if I want to get better at it, I can't wait around till when I feel inspired to do it. Yeah. So I think this constant, you know, flow of passion, this idea that that's happening, maybe that does happen for some people, but I know for myself in particular, I don't have that. You know, I need to be able to say, you know what, I don't want to do this, but what I want to do is more important to me than how I feel right now. And so I have to do it. I have to impose the discipline on myself so that I can feel and accomplish the way I want to feel when the discipline pays off, you know? And that's just it. And I think a lot of it, one thing that really helps with that self-imposed discipline is you have to understand your why. Like, why are you doing it? Like, what is the real reason? Is it just to be great? Just to produce, you know, this amazing piece of art? Or is there other underlying things that actually have more value there, right? How is this going to benefit others? Kind of like what we talked about before. You know, I think we can't dismiss the responsibility that we have in our influence of the art that we create and of what that says to someone. And ultimately, we're going to be responsible for that. It's like, do you want your art to elevate someone, or do you want it to bring negativity into their life, or do you want to discourage them? I think if we can point people in a higher, more positive, God-fearing direction and understanding their own immortality, I think it's a very high responsible thing that we can't take lightly. So in terms of defining your why, for me, that's a big factor because I don't believe that God placed me here just for my own self-satisfaction of playing drums, you know, for artists and musicians I like. You know, I think he's lent me some abilities that I have to develop to the highest degree that I can, and use that to serve him and whoever he chooses to put in my sphere of influence. So,
fuck yeah, man.
Damn.
That's sick. That's perfect. You killed it, man. This is awesome. Super inspirational. Fuck yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, and also I feel like discipline also feeds passion. So I feel, you know, just like bam, you know, passion doesn't necessarily, it can feed discipline, but discipline really pumps the energy into passions and inspiration. So that's really badass. That's awesome.
Derek, I couldn't agree with you more, brother. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, a lot of times passion doesn't get you started, discipline does, but passion can keep you going.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think you're 1,000% right there, brother.
Cool, awesome. Gentlemen. Yeah, man. Nice meeting you. Man. Thanks for being on the show.
Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. That was awesome. You guys are doing a great job. So I'm excited to see what this monster, you know, turns into.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so
vamp. Yeah! Oh, that was badass.
Yes, Jeff Bowders.
Thanks, man. This is so awesome to have you on.
It was truly educational, inspiring, and that conversation really gave us a whole new perspective on why we do what we do and how we do it and the purpose behind it.
Thanks everybody for watching. Next week we got another badass artist. Stay tuned, and we'll see you later.
Guys, please don't forget to vote. Please vote.
Do it.
Please study up the propositions. Read the propositions. Study too. Learn about what you're voting for.
Vote against our 4 Postmates. Bye.